Hello everyone, this is Jyotsna. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this software testing tutorial, we will see about verification and validation in software testing. We also call it as V model. Okay, so this model is a classic software development and testing model. Okay, for each phase, the subsequent phase becomes the verification phase and the corresponding testing phase in the other arm of the V becomes the validation phase. So for requirements, this is from verification. The subsequent phase is requirement reviews. Like that for functional specs, the subsequent validation phase is functional spec reviews. For design phase in verification, the subsequent phase is design review. Like that for release, for when we release the build to user, that phase becomes the acceptance phase. Before that, we do the acceptance testing. For building system, we system phase. So to build the software, we do the integration testing. And while code review, we do the unit testing. So this is called this validation phase is called testers life cycle, while this verification we call developers life cycle. Next is we will see what is verification. So verification is a process of checking documents, design, code and program in order to check if the software has been built according to the requirements or not. So here in verification we determine the consistency, correctness and completeness of the program at each level of verification. So verification is always done before the software is developed. Okay, this is all verification is depend on requirement specification before the software is developed. We also call quality assurance. Verification is also called quality assurance and static testing. Why static testing? Because this verification testing phase is done before the software is developed and it is always done by developers. In verification, we check whether we are building product right. Means, are you doing the job right? So, we are checking it here. And here helps verification helps in identifying not only the defect but also their location because we are checking the requirement document here. So we can even check the location where the defect is located. Okay. So in verification, we do it systematically. We do it by systematically reading the content of the software product. Okay, contents and with the intention of detecting the defects. So we are doing the verification before the software is built. So there are different types of verification. The- Here are the four types of verification. First one is walkthrough. So in walkthrough, a step-by-step presentation by the author of the document in order to gather the information and to establish a common understanding of its contents. This is nothing but walkthrough. In walkthrough, the meeting is led by author and it is an open-end session. It is used to explain and evaluate the content of the documents, means knowledge transfer. It is done here in walkthrough type. Okay, here we establish a common understanding of the document, and here in walkthrough the meeting is led by the author. Often a separate scribe is present. A walkthrough is especially useful for high-level documentation such as requirement specification and architecture documents. Okay, the next second type is inspection. So in inspection, we do the peer review that relies on visual examination of documents to detect defects. This is the most formal review technique and therefore always based on documented procedures. The third one is technical review. In technical review, an evaluation of a product or project status to a certain discrepancies from planned results and to recommended improvements. So here it is often performed by as peer review without management participation. Okay, it is without management participation actually, and it is led by trained moderator or technical expert. The fourth type is audit. So audit can be internal or external. Internal audits means it is done within the organization and external audits done by the people external to the organization to check the standards and procedures of project. So these are the four types of verification. Next is benefits of verification. So in benefits, we include the early defect detection and correction in verification. Okay. So here development productivity improves. So if we are finding the defects before the product is developed, then it will automatically improve the productivity of developments. Okay, it also reduce the development time scales because we are detecting the defects in we- before the software is developed. So it will also reduce the development time scale. It will reduce testing time and cost because the defect detection and correction is done in development phase only, and fewer defects and improved communication. So defect obviously if we are checking or documents or finding the defects in documents only, then after product is developed there will be fewer defects than before. So these are the some of the benefits of verification. Next is what is validation. So the validation, this is a this is done by testers, which is actual testing we can say. When the product is developed, we start the validation. Okay, in validation we do the actual testing. Okay, actual system testing. So we call it as dynamic testing also. So here we check whether we have built the product right. Means product is already built and we are checking if it is built right. Are we doing the job? So are we doing the right job? Okay. So here we determines the correctness of a final build with respect to its requirements. Here testing done by systematic way with the intent to find defects. Okay, the system is already built, so we are testing the system to intend with the finding defects. Okay, and it helps in identifying presence of defects, not their location. This is nothing but validation. So the next is types of validation. There are four different types of validation: unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and user acceptance testing. So unit testing it is done by developer actually when and it is depends on the coding. So we are checking the code. Based on the code, we are checking our system here. So the next is integration testing. So if there are different modules are developed, so we integrate those modules and do the integration testing. In system testing, we are doing the different functional performance and different types of testing here. Actual system testing is done here. And user acceptance testing, this is the last testing type where we are doing the user acceptance testing. I mean, before releasing the software to the user, we are doing this testing type. Okay, this is four types of validations here. The next is V-model application. So V-model application is almost the same as the waterfall model, as both the models are of sequential type. Okay, so the requirement must be very clear before the project starts. When if you are using V models, the requirement should be clear because it is usually expensive to go back and change things. So this model is used in the medical development field as it is strictly a discipline domain. So there are some pointers that suitable scenarios to use the V model applications. The first one is requirements are well defined, clearly documented and fixed, then we can use V model. If the product definition is stable, then we can use V model. If the technology is not dynamic and is well understood by the project team. Also there are no ambiguation or undefined requirements and the project is short, then we can use V model. So there are some differences between verification and validation. I have listed some of them. The first one is verification addresses the concern. Are you building it right? Means are you building the product right? And in validation, after the product is built, we are checking that the built product is right or not. So are you building the right things or right product? Okay. Second is ensure that the software system meets all the functionality because the software is still not developed. So we are ensuring that the software system meets all the functionality. And here we are ensuring that the functionalities meet the intended behavior. Means the build is already the product is already built and we are checking that it is it is meeting the requirement specifications, the things we really want or intended behavior. We are checking it here. The third one is verification takes place first and includes the checking for documentation or code. Okay, first the verification takes place. Here the first validation occurs after the verification. Okay, it is it is happening after the verification, after the build is built. Okay, and the verification is done by developers, where the validation is done by tester. Verification also called static testing and validation called dynamic testing. Verification also called quality assurance, where validation also called quality control. So the next is it has static activities as it includes collecting reviews, walkthroughs, and inspection to verify a software. Okay, and in validation it has dynamic activities as it is includes executing the software against the requirement. The last difference is it is an objective process, okay, and no subjective decision should be needed to verify a software. And in validation, it is a subjective process and involves subjective decisions on how well a software works. So these are some of the main difference between verification and validation. Next is advantages of V models. Okay, so this is a highly disciplined model and phases are completed one at a time. Here works V model works well for smaller projects where requirements are well understood. It is simple and easy to understand and use. It is easy to manage due to the rigidity of the model. Also, each phase has specific deliverables and review process. So next is V model disadvantages. So it is very high risk and uncertainty for this model. It is not good for large and complex projects. It is poor model for long and ongoing projects. Okay, and it is not suitable for the projects where requirements are at moderate rate to high risk for changing. Okay, once an application is in testing stage, it is difficult to go back and change the functionality. It is a sequential type of model, so we can't just go back and change the functionality. It will take a lot of time and lot of cost will be there. So no working software is produced until the late during the life cycle. Okay. So for working life software, we need to go through all the life cycle of model. So that's it for in today's video. Here we saw what is verification, validation, different types. There are differences between verification, validation, advantages and disadvantages of the verification and validation model. Okay. Thank you so much for watching the video.